What's up, YouTube? Welcome to yet another episode of the MMA show. Thank you guys so much for tuning in once again. I really appreciate all of you that are watching. Don't forget, if you want to help your boy out, go ahead and hit the like button and hit the subscribe button. That would help me out tremendously. But yeah, man, we had a really good night of fights over there in Abu Dhabi. You know, some haters will say, oh, they're all decisions. We did have a lot of decisions. I mean, the whole main card was essentially all decisions except for the Tony Ferguson versus Michael Chiesa, which we'll talk about for sure. But, you know, on the main event, Corey the Sandman Sanhagen taking on Umar Nurmagomedov, number 2 versus number 10, what it was. Now, Umar, you know, getting the dub against Corey, probably skyrocketing to, I don't know, maybe number 2 or number 3 in the rankings. I think that would make sense. I don't know what the fuck we're going to do, guys, to stop this fucking Dagestani train that is coming full fucking force and taking over the fucking UFC. I mean, dude, it's fucking wild, bro. It's wild. It's really wild. And these guys are... You can't even hate on them anymore because they're just good. Like Umar, you know, the main knock on Khabib and on Islam was that they were very wrestling heavy and just playing it safe. Not Umar, bro. Not Umar. Umar went up against Corey Sanhagen, who's a phenomenal striker, and pretty much outstroke him as well. Outstroke him. That sounds pretty fucking weird. He landed more strikes. I mean, plain and simple. He just not dominated, but he just won the fight. He outscored Corey on strikes and got, obviously, all the takedowns. Look at the stats here. So we have 80 strikes for Corey versus 123 for Umar. Umar also had a higher percentage of landing with a 56%. 5 takedowns for Umar out of 13 and 0 for Corey out of 2. He attempted those takedowns towards the end of the fight, but fortunately he couldn't get them. And significant strides, 98 versus 71. So yeah, I mean, overall, you know, from top to bottom, Umar just won the fight against Corey. It was a good fight, though. There were some good moments. You know, both guys had success on the feet. But again, the way I talk about how sometimes I predict some of these fights is who has more tools to win. And, you know, in this case, you have a clear striking, and then you also have a clear grappling advantage for Umar. Not an advantage on the striking. Corey is a fantastic striker, as we all know. But I don't know, man. Maybe when you're fearing of the takedown, right, and you're fearing against submitted, maybe you're not as loose. You're not flowing as much on the striking. If this was maybe a only striking match, you know, maybe we see Corey shine a little more with some of the crazy shit we know he knows how to do. So yeah, it's tough, bro. It's tough. I mean, fuck, nobody really has an answer for these Dagestanis coming over and taking over the fucking UFC, bro. Like, it's fucking wild. Now, Umar obviously calling for a title shot against Sean O'Malley. Obviously, Corey was ranked number 2. You know, we do have Sean O'Malley fighting here pretty soon against Merab at the Sphere, so that should be a good fight as well. So, you know, now you have 2 clear contenders, and we'll talk about the next fights, obviously, but you have Davison Figueiredo, who also won, and you have Umar Nurmagomedov. So, do you make both of them fight for another title eliminator fight, or do you just wait to see if who wins between O'Malley and Merab, and then give that guy either Umar or either Davison? Like, I don't know. This is what I talked about last episode too. It's like, I don't know what to do here. You know, obviously I'm not a matchmaker. So what do you do with these 2 clear opponents, the clear contenders that both just got impressive wins against top guys in the division, you know? And what do? I think you make them fight. I think it's a little premeditated if you give Umar or Davison a title shot right away. I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't mind it, though. You know, if Umar gets a title shot next right away, I mean, I wouldn't mind that either. But to make things a little more interesting, you make Davison Figueiredo versus Umar Nurmagomedov. And then the winner of that fights the winner of Sean O'Malley versus Merab. If Merab wins, I don't think that O'Malley should get an immediate rematch, especially because he only has one title defense, right? Usually people get immediate title rematches when they've, dominated for a little longer and they have a couple more defenses and stuff like that. So I think that's what happens, but I guess we're going to have to just wait and see. Overall, a good fight. Decision, so it is what it is. Then we do have Shara, the Pirate, the Bullet, Magomedov, another fucking Magomedov. Different though. This is different, and I talked about how Shara is really not part of that whole Khabib train, right? The whole, everyone that their last name is Nurmagomedov and comes from Dagestan, pretty much 99% they're all training with Khabib, right? And at his gym, at his facility. But not Shara. I think he trains somewhere else. And I do think that his fighting style is different. And he ended up getting the dub and fight of the night, which is cool. Again, another decision. And I did talk about this in my last episode, that Shara is good. Shara is good. He gets the dub. However, he needs to improve desperately his wrestling and his striking defense. I mean, that's clear as day. Clear as day. Homie got rocked, bro. Homie got fucking rocked. He got knocked down. He got knocked down by Michal. So, Michal, no punk, phenomenal striker as well. Powerful dude from Poland. So, Shara, he's getting dubs. He's got all the hype right now. But, bro, if you're getting into a top 15 situation soon, which I think he will, not after this fight, but I think maybe one or two more, you have to have good striking defense, bro. You cannot get cracked like that. In the top 15, you will get fucking demolished, bro. You get demolished, especially at middleweight, bro. Middleweight is just full of fucking killers. He did take this fight on short notice, so, shout out, I guess. That was pretty good. But again, you got to work on your striking defense and you got to work on your takedowns defense or just wrestling overall. Just improve your wrestling. He's a great striker. Don't get me wrong. Phenomenal knees, elbows. He cut Michal super bad with I think it was a knee or elbow. So that's there. That's good. Improve on that. But desperately go ahead and improve your striking defense because you get cracked. He got cracked before as well. And your takedown defense, bro. It's just what it is. You have to do that if you want to compete in the top of the division, which he'll get there. I think, like I said, one or two more fights, he'll be top 15. So, yeah. But shout out to Shara. As far as what's next for him, looking here at the rankings, let's see here. He's not ranked yet, so if you want to put him in a top 15 situation, then maybe give him someone like Michel Pereira. I know he called out Kevin Holland, but I think Kevin Holland is already booked for a fight. You have Chris Curtis. That might be a good right in the 15 position there, so that might be a good one for him to just get introduced. But again, do we give him a top 15 now, or do we wait maybe a couple more fights, right? And this has been a topic of conversation that has been happening with other fighters, like, for example, like Sean O'Malley. When he came up, he had a bunch of unranked fights, which is good for him. It's good for the UFC as well because you build them up slowly. Look at Patty. Patty just barely broke into the top 15 of the division after a couple of years of big hype, And again, this is a similar situation because all these guys that I just mentioned, they've had big hype behind them where they're more famous than some of these other guys that are ranked, right? So it's a tricky situation, and the UFC has to manage them correct. They did it fantastically with Sean O'Malley. That's, like I said before in a previous episode, that is the experiment of how do you build up a fighter from literally a teenage kid. Well, he wasn't a teenage kid, but he was young, right? Young buck. Fighting in the Ultimate Fighter, winning that, and then getting a UFC contract and just literally starting at the bottom and working his way up into a fucking champion. So that is the perfect experiment that we have. Other fighters should be following that blueprint, right? And not rushing. Just simple as that. Not rushing. Because you got a lot to lose, right? If you lose against an unranked opponent and you have a lot of hype, that hype might go away. And B, because your contract, it's not there yet as far as the compensation, right? You're not getting paid as a top 15 fighter, so why would you call out and fight top 15 fighters? So, yeah, I know Shara called out Kevin Holland, which is ranked, so I wouldn't mind seeing him, especially because I think he's older, right? How old is Shara? He's 30. Yeah, I mean, he's 30. He's not like this young prospect that is barely in the UFC. Like, the dude has 14 fights to his name, undefeated. I mean, that's fucking savage. So, 30 years old. I wouldn't mind seeing him in the top 15. So, again, do we give him one more? Do we give him now a top 15 ranked? Who knows? But shout out to him for another dub. And yeah, brother, please improve your striking defense and your takedown defense, because that train is gonna stop completely if you get in the top 15 and you're fighting like that still. But yeah, shout out. Then we have a fight that I was very excited for, actually. Chito Marlon Vera versus Davison, the God of War, Figueiredo. I was excited for this one. Excited. Chito obviously being the latest contender for the belt at bantamweight, against Sean O'Malley, and then Davison being the former champ at flyweight, and moving up, and now being on a 3-fight win streak at bantamweight, 2 at the time. It was a recipe for a good fight, a phenomenal fight. Both of these guys have power, speed. Both of these guys are very, very well-rounded. But, I talked about this before, bro, how Marlon he doesn't get going, bro. He doesn't get going. And everybody said that being a 3-round fight, it would definitely benefit Davison Figueiredo. And it did. It 100% did. I mean, Chito just doesn't get going. I don't know what other way to put it. He just doesn't start to fight. It's like he's light sparring or something. Like, the dude is just out there chilling. And I'm a huge Chito fan, bro. Like, I was rooting for him when he fought O'Malley. I've been rooting for him for all these years. And I just want to see him get gold, or I just want to see him just stay at the top of the division. But fighting this way, you are not. Simple as that, you are not. I mean, I don't know what he's hoping for. Is he just waiting and hoping to maybe land one knockout punch? He's never really been a crazy knockout artist. He has some great knockouts, but he's never been like this crazy power puncher. So I don't know if he's waiting on that. I mean, his plan is clearly not to win on points, because he just doesn't. Again, he's not as busy as O'Malley was and as Davison was, right? He did land a little bit more of total strikes than Davison. It was 67 versus 59. However, Davison had the bigger landing ratio, so he'd land 57 and Chito landed 49%. So, however, I think where he got the loss is the takedowns. I mean, Davison got the takedowns. He attempted a lot, though. 2 takedowns, okay, out of 14. So at that point, you're like, okay, But yeah, obviously, Davison probably had the biggest moment of the fight when he knocked down Chito, which, if you don't know, Chito's a guy that has never been knocked out, never been put away in the UFC. So every time he fights, it's like, oh, is O'Malley going to be the one to put him away? Is Davison going to be the one to put him away? Yeah, so he didn't get put away, but he did get knocked down. He got rocked. It wasn't too serious, though. He got right back up, so it is what it is. Striking-wise, they were pretty fucking even. I mean, even at the significant strikes, Chito had more. Chito had 52 to 45 for Davison. And then, but again, 2 takedowns and then 1 knockdown. I think that's what really gave the judges the decision of going with Davison. It was a close fight. I mean, it was a pretty close fight, but again, Chito just doesn't get going. Again, he just looks like he doesn't want to fight. I don't know. It's weird, which is crazy, because when you hear him talk, right, he talks about, beating these guys up and knocking them out and putting them away. I'm going to show them that I'm the best. And he just goes out there and doesn't do it. And I know. Who the fuck am I to say, right? I mean, easier said than done, obviously. But I don't know, bro. Chito needs to go back and watch some of those fights that he had against Sandhagen, against O'Malley, against Davison. And, I talked also about how okay, he struggled against Corey and O'Malley. What's the main thing between those two? They're both phenomenal strikers, right? Davison, it's not like that much of a high-level striker like O'Malley or like Sandhagen, but he still struggled against Davison. So I mean, I don't know what it is. I really don't know what it is. I would have to literally psychoanalyze the fights, but he just doesn't get going. He just doesn't get going. I think he expects his opponents to just be punching bags, right? He can do whatever he wants. Maybe he doesn't expect them to be like that. I don't know, man. It's tough to say, but I really wish him the best. I'm a huge Chito fan, like I already said, and I wish him the best on his future endeavors. And then as far as Davison Figueiredo goes, I mean, new top contender at bantamweight. We've been saying this though, I believe, ever since UFC 300. He's there. I think he's there for a title shot. So yeah, I think what's next for him, it's, either you wait to see what happens between O'Malley and Merab, or you make Umar versus Davison Figueiredo for now the real number one contender fight, right? The winner of that fights the winner of O'Malley versus Merab. I think that's what makes sense. I think that's what I want to see. And again, Davison putting away 3 high-level bantamweights back to back to back, and in big cards like that. I mean, one of them was a UFC 300, opened up the show, you know what I mean? And now Abu Dhabi, big card. Yeah, I mean, that's what you have to do. That's what you really have to do. So, yeah, I would say next for him is Davison Figueiredo versus Umar Nurmagomedov. Then, ladies and gentlemen, we have what broke my heart. What literally broke my heart, bro. I couldn't watch. I really couldn't watch. I had to look away. I mean, Tony Ferguson versus Michael Chiesa, ending in round 1. The only finish of the main card. I know, it sucks, terrible, but it is what it is. Tony been submitted in the very first round by Michael Chiesa. And then, Michael gets on the mic and then very humble, he says, hey, this is not my mic right now. This is Tony's mic. Why? Because he took off his gloves, right? And usually, if you don't know, in MMA or in UFC, if you take off your gloves right after the fight and you put them on the octagon, on the mat, that means that you're going to retire, right? It's a very ritual that a lot of fighters do, right? If you've seen it before. He took off his gloves, so Michael's like, oh, he's retiring. Let me give him the mic, right? Tony gets in the mic. Fucking Daniel Cormier asks him, Tony, is this it for you, right? He goes silent for, I don't know, it was weird. This is very awkward. He goes silent for the longest, doesn't say anything. Crowd's cheering. That's another thing that you can't take away from the dude. The dude's a superstar. The dude is he's gonna get cheered no matter where he goes. He's just a natural superstar in the UFC, and I think that's why he's been able to hang for as long as he has. If he didn't have that notoriety, and if he didn't have that, if he wasn't that well known, he would have retired a long, long time ago, right? So he gets on the mic, takes off his glove. He says, "You know what, Daniel? I took one glove off." He puts it on the mat. He throws it, and he says, "I'm not there just yet." He has to go home, talk to his family, talk to his coaches. It's what everybody says after a fight. And it's understandable, but it's like, hey, dude, what do you mean you have to go home and talk to your coaches? This is the 8th fight you've lost in a row. That conversation should have already been had, right? You should have that conversation before the fights, bro. Like, hey, if I lose terribly, maybe I'm going to retire, right? And wife, you agree? Coach, you agree? Kid, you agree? Okay, go out and do it. I think Tony, at this point, is just lying to himself, bro, thinking he's going to have another run, another title shot, another opportunity at something great. And unfortunately, it didn't happen. And, a lot of people said that, okay, Tony just needs the right opponent. Tony just needs a dude that he could beat to then finally win and finally retire. That was Michael Chiesa. I'm not saying Michael Chiesa it's an easy fight by any means, but if you look at it on paper, Michael Chiesa is also a little bit older, and also coming off a three fight losing streak, back to back to back. So okay, if you look at Tony's previous fights, he's fought up and coming, younger, savage dudes. Fucking Paddy the Baddy, fucking Bobby Green, fucking Michael Chandler. Those are not easy fights, bro. Right? They're all coming up. They're all somewhat undefeated, right? Not Bobby, he was not undefeated, but Michael Chandler obviously being explosive, young, fast dude, and then Paddy the Baddy being young and undefeated and just the new guy in town. Tough fights for Tony, bro. Super tough fights for Tony. So this was the one. This was okay. Both of these guys have lost their previous fights, or Tony being on a 8-fight losing streak and Michael being on a 3-fight losing streak. So I actually, don't laugh at your boy. I put some money on Tony. I said, okay, this has to be the one. Tony wins. And being a fat underdog, I was like, I'll take that bet all day, bro. I'll take that bet all day. I didn't put that much, only a little bit. But this was the fight. This was it. This was it. If you cannot win against a guy that's coming on 3 fights losing streak, I'm sorry, bro, but I don't think you got no more. I don't think you have nowhere else to go. Like, that's it. Like, where else? What else? Who else are you going to fight? You want to fight some dude that's on his UFC debut that has no fights? That might be even tough because, young dude, hungry lion, all these dudes nowadays are fucking savages from a very, very early age. That's not good either. So you're at a point where you cannot hang with the top dogs. You cannot hang with the OGs. You cannot hang in the middle. And you cannot hang at the bottom. I fucking hate to say this because, again, I love Tony. Everybody loves Tony. But he just can't hang no more. He just can't hang no more. He looks slow. He looks not there. He looks sluggish. I mean, mentally, he's fine, though, it seems, right? He gets on the mic. He says of the shit. Every single fight, he gets on the mic before the fight, and he says all this shit, how it's the best he's ever felt. He's the fastest he's ever felt, the youngest he's ever felt. And then he goes out there and gives us his performances where he's getting finished, or he's just getting dominated for all the rounds. So, I don't know, bro. It is tough. It is tough to see. I really want to see him retire, bro. Like, just cut your losses. I was also coming in here last couple of episodes, and I was talking about how, is it financial? Like, if it's financial, like, maybe you can get a job at the UFC, like be a commentator, be a coach or something, right? But it doesn't look that way. I mean, Tony, he gets in the mind. He talks about how he's good, he's set. So it's like, okay, I mean, it's not financial. Then what the fuck is it, bro? Then what the fuck is it? He also says he doesn't want to go to another organization. And I don't know what. I have to do a little bit more research on this, but I would like to know, where is he on his contract journey, right? Is he at the end of his contract? Does he still have a couple of fights left? Because one thing I said is, he's probably just going to fight out his contract, right? If he has maybe 1 or 2 more fights in his contract, he's going to get the pay. He's going to get paid and just fight, right? That's why the UFC technically don't want to, retire him, because he might still have fights in his contract. So, but again, bro, it just comes to a point where like this, where is it? But then I said that if his contract runs out and he's still at that losing streak, the UFC is going to say, sorry, bud, but we're not going to re-sign you. We're not going to sign you another contract. Sure, you're a superstar and you probably bring a lot of money on pay-per-view and on tickets and on merch and shit like that. But like, at what point, bro? At what cost? At what cost, right? It's tough. It's tough. So I wish him nothing but the best, bro. Then we had Mackenzie Dern versus Lupe Godinez, another unanimous decision. Mackenzie getting the dub, much needed. She was also on a little bit of a roller coaster in her career, getting a few losses back to back against Jessica Andrade, against Lemos. So she really needed to be back in the win column. So shout out to her. Got back in the win column against a really, really fearsome opponent in Lupe. Everybody said Lupe was gonna ran through Mackenzie and she was up next. And yeah, I mean, I'm a fan of Lupe. Being Mexican, it's I like to see Mexicans do good in the UFC. and she's a phenomenal boxer, phenomenal striker. But yeah, Mackenzie just had the advantage on that fight. Let me see the numbers here. We have 103 total strikes versus 72, even on takedowns, and then a little more significant strikes for Mackenzie Dern. So yeah, she needed to get back into win column, and that's good. And I don't know, Mackenzie seems like one of those girls that, you know, she really could be doing something else. I mean, you know, she's great looking, so she probably could be some sort of, I don't know, model or artist or whatever, but she doesn't want to do that. She's out there fighting in the UFC. She also has a very famous dad, right? Who probably, financially, she probably doesn't need to fight, but she does it for the love of it, so that's great. And yeah, you can tell that her wins are like, barely, like she really has to fucking fight for them. Like she's not out here just running through people. And I like to see that. I like to see that. I think that, you know, builds a character and that gives her a really nice arc and story for her career. So it's great. So I like to see the win for her. So yeah, shout out. Then we had, sorry, never mind. I misspoke. We had one more finish on the card. Sorry. It was Joel versus Elvis. It was a TKO on the round 3. So shout out to Joe Alvarez. Good thing getting a big win in a big card, opening a main card, you know, that's great. He was the favorite, taking the judges completely out of the equation. He did, you know, looking at the numbers, he had more strikes, submission attempts, more significant strikes, and obviously the KO. So yeah, just a domination for Joe Alvarez, so shout out to him. But yeah, that was all for UFC Fight Night in Abu Dhabi. Another good night of fights. You know, the UFC always delivers. But then we get a little announcement over the weekend. And I like that Dana does this. Dana announces, you know, he just gets on social media and just randomly announces fights, which is cool. But he gives us he did it also with the Sphere. He announces full cards. He doesn't just do, this is the main event for this UFC 208, and then that's it, right? Which I think he did that more in the past, where like, hey, this is the main event of UFC 208, and then end of the video. And then later on the weeks, he would come out with more and more fights. But now he's giving us full cards, or at least the main cards for events, which is great. So if you don't know, now you know. He announced UFC 308 in October. In Abu Dhabi or Fight Island. Wow, holy shit, another one. What the fuck? They're taking over too, bro. Come on. But we do have Ilya Topuria taking on Max Holloway. I'm excited. I'm very excited for this fight. This should be the fight maybe of the year. I'm not gonna lie. This should be maybe the fight of the year, just because we know Max has that dog in him. Okay, that's, if you want to talk about like what's Chito missing, what's Tony missing, it's that fucking dog, bro. Okay, that Max has. To be winning a fight and going on the last 10 seconds and saying to your opponent, meet me out here in the middle, motherfucker, and then knocking him out at the last second of the fight. And not only that, but that opponent being none other than fucking Justin the Highlight Gagey, you know, savage. We all know Max. We all love Max. You know, fantastic career in the UFC. And still young, by the way. He's only 32, I believe. Maybe 31. He's 32 and has had a phenomenal Hall of Fame career in the UFC, bro. So it's fucking wild for him to be at the point where he's at. Where he still has, well, if he wants, another 6 to 10 years on his career. Like, that's fucking wild, bro. And he's out here doing the goddamn thing, right? And then also now a potential contender at lightweight. That should be fun. Taking on Ilya El Matador Topuria, who obviously just coming off a phenomenal KO of one of the best featherweights in the world, and Alexander Volkanovski ever, right? In the featherweight division, one of the best. Undefeated buck, you know, fucking power. Power, hits like a truck. And great boxing combinations, dude. I mean, this dude is fucking serious, bro. He's no joke. A bunch of his knockdowns, a bunch of his KOs, you know, he mixes up really well where he goes to the body and then works his way up to your fucking face, and then you're down on the canvas. So I'm scared. I'm not gonna lie. I'm a little scared for Max. Okay, I'm a little scared. I'm obviously rooting on this one for Max, and I'll break the fights more as when the week of the fight. I'm just kind of announcing them, but I'm scared for Max, bro. I'm scared for Max. Max is, even though he has great KOs, he's not a finisher like Ilya. He's not a finisher like Ilya. No. So if Max is able to survive Ilya for the 5 rounds, then you can probably get the dove. But if Ilya touches you, bro, and you go down, it's over, Max. It's over. This should be a phenomenal striking fight. Both of these guys, primarily strikers, obviously well-rounded, so they could go to the ground if they wanted, but should be a phenomenal striking. And then we have Cyril Gane versus Alexander Volkov. Obviously, Cyril Gane coming off of a loss against the GOAT, John Jones, hasn't fought ever since, so that should be good. And Alexander Volkov also coming off of a loss, I believe, against, who was it? Pavlovich, if I'm not mistaken. Sorry, I misspoke. It's a win, actually. He's coming off of a win against Pavlovich, and before that, a couple of wins in a row, so he's in a fucking little bit of a tear, The dude's tall and lean. So, again, this is a guy that could potentially be a great matchup for a Tom Aspinall or like a John Jones. I mean, this guy is great. He is tall and lean and heavyweight, so that's, we're seeing now that that's probably the best kind of heavyweight there is. No knock on some of these other chubbier guys, right? But being a heavyweight and having a clear speed advantage, it's crucial. You see it with Tom Aspinall, see it with Cyril Gane, you see it with Volkov. So this should be a good fight. This should be a really, really good fight. Potentially another, title eliminator. I mean, Cyril Gane being ranked number 2 and Alexander being ranked number 3. So the winner of this, gets into the mix of the whole Tom Aspinall, John Jones dilemma that I already talked about in previous episodes. I'm not going to get into it, but it's a fucking nightmare. But yeah, now we have another contender, and I'm glad that we're seeing this because we're glad that the heavyweight is going to get a new fucking set of meat in that fucking whole dilemma going on there. So it's good. It's good that the division keeps going. There's been a bottleneck in the division for a while with John Jones, right? But it's good. He's going to probably retire soon, and then Tom Aspinall will be champ, and then you have here a clear title eliminator fight for that. So yeah, should be good. And then we also got this little fight announced, fucking Robert the Reaper Whittaker versus Khamzat Chimaev, bro. I'm going to be so upset if this fight doesn't take place, okay? Khamzat has been a little bit unreliable. I mean, to say unreliable is to say the least. Like, the guy doesn't fucking fight. The guy fights once a year, if that even. And he, misses weights. He gets injured. He pulls out. Like, again, the fuck, bro? Talk about derailing a hype train, right? Even though he still has a hype train somehow, I don't know. But yeah, the guy just doesn't fucking fight, bro. And I saw a crazy stat that was like, every time Khamzat has had a main event, he just doesn't show up. So the UFC learned their lesson and they said, all right, let's put him in the third, the third fight of the night, the second fight of the night, but the third one from the top. And hopefully he fucking makes it, because this is a guy that for the longest, he's talking all this shit. Everybody wants him to fight the champ, double champ, 2 divisions, fucking running through everybody. And then we see that's not the case. We see that he doesn't fight that often. We see that when he fights, it's not as easy as people say it is. He struggled against a lot of people. He struggled against fucking Gilbert Burns, you know what I mean? Kevin Holland was a good fight. He struggled against Usman, and I thought if that fight was a few more rounds, Usman could have turned that fight around. It was a very close fight, though. Very close fight. So yeah, this is not, again, I'm not hating on him. He's a phenomenal guy, and I really want to see him do good in the UFC, and I'm a huge fan. But this is what happens when, some of these guys get too much hype before they're there, and they just don't capitalize on it, right? And I know he's had some health issues as well, which is obviously out of his control. But yeah, I don't know. It's crazy. It's crazy. I really hope this fight happens, because this fight was supposed to happen a few months ago, right? And then Robert, Khamzat stepped out. Robert had a big win against an unranked guy. So, but yeah, I hope this fight happens. Really, I'm really glad if Robert is able to get this dub, because that puts him right back up there in that title contender fight, right? But if Khamzat wins, he probably gets a title shot next too. Again, we gotta get going now. We have to get going. Khamzat cannot, fights again in October. What is it gonna take another year off, year and a half? Like, that's insane, right? He needs to get going. He needs to fucking get it cracking. Then we have Magomed Ankalaev versus Alexander Rakic. This also should be a really good fight. We have obviously Magomed, former title contender, right, and had a couple of awkward fights, right, a bunch of them being no contest or a draw, and luckily he got a big win against Johnny Walker when they fought last, so that is good for him. But yeah, unfortunately has a couple of rough goes the last couple of fights, and there was even talk of him leaving the UFC because he didn't feel like he was being appreciated or something like that. It's tough, man. It's tough because you have the light heavyweight division, you have a guy in Alex Pereira that you skyrocketed to the top, right? I mean, yeah, he did his thing, right, at middleweight, which is great, but then immediately, boom, champion also at light heavyweight. So for someone like Magomed, who's been there for a while, and obviously, again, Russian dude, right, fucking that same fighting style as Khabib, big hype on him, but then you're like, wait, I'm up next, and you give this guy a title shot. I get fucked on 2 of my fights, and now I'm back in the queue. Like, I don't want to do this, right? So a lot of people were saying that Magomed should just get a title fight next against Alex, especially because there's nobody else, literally nobody else to fight Alex, the top of the division. So I'm a little confused as of why they gave Magomed this fight, right? Like, just give him Alex right away. Like, that's my opinion, right? There's nobody else for Alex, right? Because now this fight's in October. So that's, what, fucking 3 months away, right? Yeah, 3 months away. No, 2 months away, sorry. And then what? And then let's say, it's a war. So let's say he wins, but it's a war. So he has to obviously wait a few months. Now you have Alex unactive for 6 months to 8 months potentially, right? So what? Who's Alex gonna fight in between? If he's not gonna go to heavyweight, which he might not, but he might. I don't know. Well, I talked about that before as well. Who's he gonna fight? Is he gonna just take some time off? Like, it makes no sense. It makes no sense. This fight should have been co-main, or maybe even the main, or maybe just give him another. Make this fight in November. Pereira versus Magomed. I think that's the way to go. I think that's what they should have done. But it is what it is. We got the fight. It's a fire card. It's a fire card. I just hope all of these guys make it to that fucking date, especially Khamzat. Stop fucking about and fucking fight, bro. There's also talk about Khamzat not being able to go to the US and just having visa issues. So that's also the reason why he's being a little inactive. But, bro, you just have to fight. You have to fight. You cannot take years off between fighting when you're an up-and-coming contender. Like, it's just not, it doesn't work. It does not. Look, last time he fought is going to be exactly a year, right? It was October 2023. Before that, it was September 2022. Bro, this guy fights once a year, bro. That is not, that is not how this should be, okay? But yeah, I will break down this full card, obviously, the week of that fight card. So obviously come back for that. If you don't want to miss that, stay tuned. We do have some fucking fire cards coming up soon. We have the Sphere, right? We have UFC 305 with Israel Adesanya going against Dricus. So please subscribe and hit that bell so that when I upload, talk about these fights, you guys get notified. And yeah, the Adesanya card is pretty soon. That's in like a week or two. Yeah, 2 weeks to 17th. So shout out. I will be I will be having potentially, our due date is Our due date is August 21st. We are having a little girl. Your boy's becoming a dad. Shout out. So if I'm a little offline for some of those weeks, so it could be around this time, I'll try my best to upload. But yeah, if I'm off, you know why. But I'll let you guys know. Don't worry. But shout out and thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for subscribing and liking. And I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.